Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to completely shatter a massive illusion today. For the past few years, we've all been spoon-fed this story about an AI tech race, right? Like it's just this Silicon Valley corporate brawl over who can build the smartest chatbot. But honestly, that narrative is completely dead. What we're actually looking at right now is a hidden global arms race happening entirely behind the scenes, and it is literally reshaping the entire geopolitical landscape as we speak.
Okay, let's dive into this with a number that should instantly reframe how you think about artificial intelligence. 900.
That is the number of AI-assisted military strikes executed in just the first 12 hours of Operation Epic Fury in early 2026. A pace of targeting that previously would have taken human analysts weeks, maybe even months to process. We have to realize AI is no longer just a large language model helping you write emails. It's an active, highly lethal military asset that has fundamentally changed the speed and scale of global warfare.
Section 1. The Tech Race Illusion. The Collapsing Capability Gap.
To really understand how we got here, we've got to look at the first major misconception. The public, and frankly a lot of policymakers, just assumed that severe U.S. export controls on advanced microchips would guarantee America a multi-year lead in AI over China. The sheer scale of the financial battlefield in 2025 was insane. You had private AI investment in the United States sitting at a staggering $285.9 billion. Over in China, domestic private investment was just $12.4 billion. That is a 23-to-1 funding disparity. By all conventional tech industry logic, America should be light years ahead, right? Now, what's really interesting about this is, despite that massive 23-to-1 funding difference, the performance gap between the top U.S. models and the top Chinese models completely collapsed. By March 2026, that gap was just 2.7%. The U.S.-China AI gap has effectively vanished.
Section 2. The Silicon and Energy Battlefield. The Physical Bottlenecks of AI.
So how did that capability gap close so incredibly fast? Well, it actually comes down to physical reality. The real bottleneck in this arms race isn't training data anymore. It's silicon and electricity. The structural differences driving both nations right now are huge. The United States absolutely holds the advantage in cutting-edge silicon design, but it faces severe energy grid paralysis. In late 2025, there was a 50% drop in new data center project approvals, simply because the US grid literally couldn't handle the power demand. On the flip side, China is blocked from buying those advanced Western chips, but they have a massive, state-subsidized renewable energy surplus. Through their East Data West Computing initiative, they're directly pairing huge computing facilities with vast solar and wind farms in their western interior. They're constructing these modular data nodes in just 6 months. They're basically countering the semiconductor sanctions with pure brute force energy surplus.
Section 3. The Open Source Weapon, DeepSeek and Deflationary Warfare.
But infrastructure is really only half the battle here. We also have to talk about the software strategy, specifically how open-source models are being weaponized as an economic tool. Chinese developers are executing this highly aggressive strategy to completely capture the global developer ecosystem. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what deflationary warfare looks like. OpenAI's GPT 5.5 and Google's Gemini 3.0 Pro are charging dollars per million tokens. Anthropic's Claude is even higher, but DeepSeek V4 Pro, which is trailing the top US models by only a few months in raw capability, is charging literally fractions of a single cent for input tokens. This extreme price undercutting directly threatens the massive valuations of Silicon Valley giants because those companies are relying on high token margins to justify their billion-dollar infrastructure costs.
To achieve this kind of hyper-efficiency, developers are engaging in a strategic economic maneuver known as a distillation attack. Basically, this is a form of intellectual property arbitrage. A company totally bypasses those massive exploratory research and development costs by training their less expensive AI model on millions of high-quality outputs generated by a competitor's superior model. For example, it's been well documented that DeepSeek ran 16 million queries through 24,000 fake accounts specifically to extract the logical and reasoning structures of Anthropic's Claude model.
Which leads us to the most critical and, frankly, most terrifying question of this entire explainer. What happens when you take these highly capable frontier AI systems and plug them directly into lethal military systems? The geopolitical landscape of AI is shifting by the millisecond. So to make sure you never fall behind, take a second to like this explainer and subscribe to the channel before we reveal what the militaries are actually doing with this tech.
Section 4. AI goes to war. Algorithmic speed and kinetic dominance.
Welcome back. All right, let's step out of the corporate boardrooms and onto the battlefield, because AI has officially gone to war.
The core military doctrine for superpowers is now entirely centered on algorithmic speed. So the crucial point is that the Pentagon is already integrating frontier models into live targeting networks. The U.S. Department of Defense evolved Project Maven into a comprehensive operating system of war for Central Command. It pulls in 179 distinct real-time data feeds. We're talking satellite imagery, radar, drone footage, the whole shebang. Interestingly, Anthropic's Claude was initially the only model used inside these classified networks. But after some ethical disputes over military use, it was swapped out for OpenAI systems mid-operation. This AI integration compresses targeting cycles that used to take human analysts days down to mere seconds, processing over 12,000 targets.
Meanwhile, China is rolling out what they call intelligentized warfare, and their goal is total algorithmic sovereignty. In September 2025, the PLA showcased drones autonomously accompanying fighter jets. By early 2026, they demonstrated the Atlas system, which can deploy a 200-drone autonomous swarm from a single vehicle. And then in May 2026, they unveiled the HGSTR algorithm. This was specifically designed for autonomous operations in heavily jammed, contested environments where human communication is completely cut off.
Let's move to and see how this builds in an actual combat scenario, because it is wild. The HGSTR algorithm operates on a 6.6 millisecond decision loop. Step 1. A contested environment causes total communication loss. The drone is essentially flying blind. Step 2. The algorithm instantly constructs a heterogeneous graph prioritizing variables like terrain, friendly units, and enemy targets. Step 3. A specialized memory system retains the last known coordinates of the drone swarm. And Step 4. The system executes an autonomous lethal strike decision in exactly 6.6 milliseconds. Think about that. This is a drone swarm executing a find-and-kill-them-all directive faster than human comprehension, entirely without human intervention.
Section 5. The AGI Panic. The Death of Pre-Release Safety.
When you combine this kind of military escalation with the collapsing capability gap we talked about earlier, well, it triggers a massive geopolitical chain reaction. Governments have realized the stakes and are quietly panicking, which has led to a total regulatory collapse. In late 2025, 166 nations voted at the UN to ban autonomous weapons, but the US and Russia rejected it. Back in the US, Anthropic actually delayed their Claude Mythos model because it had the potential to autonomously exploit critical infrastructure. The White House tried to mandate pre-release safety audits for these frontier models, but after massive lobbying from tech executives who argued that regulation would just hand the strategic lead straight to China, those safety audits were completely withdrawn. The result? The Future of Life Institute released an index finding that absolutely zero major companies have a credible, testable plan for maintaining human control over highly capable AI systems.
Even the architects of this technology are sounding the alarm. In 2026, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman stated plainly, "On our current trajectory, we believe we may be only a couple of years away from early versions of true superintelligence. No company can sufficiently mitigate these threats on their own. This is a remarkably stark warning. The people building this technology are openly admitting they are racing towards something they do not fully know how to control, entirely driven by the crushing pressures of global competition."
Which leaves us with this final, vital question to ponder. In a global arms race where the technological gap is effectively closed, where military integration is happening in milliseconds, and where the safety brakes have been completely removed, who actually wins when the algorithm takes over? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. The world is changing incredibly fast right now, and I hope this provided you with the clarity to understand exactly what is happening behind the headlines. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.